Storyboarding is an essential part of the creative process. It allows you to quickly iterate on ideas in order to deliver the right message. Here's how you can quickly create a storyboard using fully open source AI image tools. So first up, I'm going to go over this entire workflow. It's kind of separated all into groups, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it, if you will. This workflow is available to download on the Prompting Pixels website, which you can find a link to that in the description. So first off is you'll have your loaders and constants group. So that's basically where we bring in all the necessary models and set values that are hard-coded and referenced throughout the workflow. Then next up, we have reference images. So you can see we have 3 different reference images. That's what Qwen Image Edit can take as inputs. So you might want to use 2 characters in a scene or 3 different characters. However it is that you might want to use that, you can with the reference images. Then we also have this optional previous scene. So if you created an image and then want to reference that later, you can just send it back to this node fairly easily. Then over in the batch prompts group is exactly that. So I have kind of the whole story as it progresses here. You can read these at your own pace, and we'll kind of go over some of these as we are generating images. But we have this nice little incrementer. It's a fixed value, but you could basically batch create all 8 images if you wanted to by just simply queuing ComfyUI 8 times and then reading through each of those lines. Then we also have this ControlNet group. So if we want to direct the image to be in a certain pose or composition, we could use a ControlNet here. And then finally, we have Qwen Image Edit, which is going to do all the heavy lifting of actually generating these images. And as you can see, we bring in all those loaders, and then we'll actually get the output image. Lastly, and this is of course optional, is if you want to bring this all to life in a short form video, you can use Qwen 2.2 to basically animate from an image to video workflow, which is all connected here. So let's just touch on a few things in this first group here. So first off is the models. So this is the next scene, Laura. You could use this especially for realism projects. Say, for instance, you want a few characters talking to each other, and then the camera's kind of zooming out or kind of changing the composition of the image. You would want to enable that, Laura, and then prompt it accordingly. But we're just going to bypass that for now. It's just there for a reference. And then also too is the width and the height. So since I want to animate this down the road, I'm going to use 1280 by 720 as it's supported by Qwen 2.2. Now I could use also 1024 by 1024 as well, but just for simplicity's sake and kind of that filmmaker's look, we're going to go for a nice little widescreen format. Now for the reference images, I basically only have 2 characters in this story. It's going to be Link and Zelda. They're going to be talking in front of Hyrule Castle, and then Link's going to go on an adventure to a cave and then kill a bat and then open up a treasure chest. So that's basically everything that I need to get started for these reference images. And as I just kind of quickly outlined in the prompts here, you can see I have pretty short prompts. We're basically just making incremental edits using Qwen Image Edit in this entire workflow. Now, if you wanted to kind of batch use this, you could increment it, but we're just going to go with fix because I'm not too confident that it's going to just completely create the entire story in one shot. So we can see that we have the positive prompt set here with this batch. And so I have that connected to the Qwen Image Edit positive prompt here. And then as far as the reference images, we have reference image 1, 2, and 3, which we already went over. So whenever you generate this image with the 8-step Qwen Image Edit Laura, it will create something like this. So that's terrific. So now if we want to progress this story, we would just increment this by 1 and then just basically bypass reference image 2 and 3 because this is just going to be Link getting up on his horse in order to go to the dungeon. So we'll just go ahead and fast forward while this is processing here. All right, so that just finished. And so now we can see Link on a horse getting ready to go to the dungeon. So again, if we want to just kind of use this further, we could use this image as the reference image. So I'm using a special node here that I can send it to the current workflow, and then it will update this reference image here. So what I could do then is just do previous scene, which is what this constant is set at, and then increment it by 1. So we go on to the next line of the prompt. And as we can see, this prompt, we can see the text. Unfortunately, it doesn't show here within the Qwen Image Edit Plus, but basically it's a red sketch drawing, extreme close-up shot showing the character from image 1 with a determined expression and eyebrows furrowed. It doesn't really look all that much different, to be quite honest, and that's okay. Sometimes Qwen Image Edit has a hard time kind of following along things, so this is actually a good problem to have sometimes, as we can kind of do a couple of things. We could use a ControlNet to kind of dictate where this image is. So in order to do that, we'll go ahead and upload a reference image to this load image node. So I have a determined expression here. So we're going to use this and see how it goes. Basically, what I want to do is then set this ControlNet up to this case sampler. So just as a quick point here is we have the outputs from the apply ControlNet to be this optional positive ControlNet and optional negative ControlNet. So it's kind of a lot going on here, but this is the best way that I could think of working everything out. So I have those get nodes here that we can then use as a reference. And I'm also going to switch out this image. Instead of using the previous scene, I'm going to use reference image 1 of link here. I think that might be a little bit better to try to tease out that expression of the character reference in this ControlNet. So let's generate this and see what we get. And here we go. This actually works out quite well. So I turned down the strength to 1. I had it set a little bit too high from an earlier test. But as we can see, it generally maintains this same pose of the character, but now it's Link. So this works perfect for our storyboard. Now on to the next scene here. So the next one would be the character holding a torch and entering a dungeon. So we'll go to seed 3, and we're going to use reference image 1 again of Link, and then just basically bypass all that ControlNet again. So I'm just going to select everything, press Command B here on the Mac, and then set it back to our positive and negative prompts, and then generate the next image. All right, that's done, and that looks pretty good. I guess, the reference image had him holding a sword, so it's kind of confused on what to do with that with the torch, but we'll just go with that for right now. I'm not going to worry about making in-paint edits on this. Maybe a little bit stronger of prompts, or also leveraging some negative prompts here would be helpful. But we're going to use this on to the next scene. So I'm going to send it to the workflow, the current workflow, and then change this back to the previous scene, increment this up 1 more, and then take a look. Hopefully it should have Link trying to kill a bat within this dungeon sort of appearance here, or scene, if you will. All right, so this image completely failed, and sometimes you just have to try pulling that lottery, if you will, of the case sampler and hoping that the right image appears. All right, so we can see here we got the bat in there, but it's still struggling with the sword. So let me just kind of fast forward a few frames here while I work this out. But basically, I'll kind of recap everything of what I did in order to fix it. So after a little bit of finagling, we now have Link here fighting some bats in the dungeon. So we are using our previous scene here. So what I kind of used to try to get the model steered in the right direction, so I added in a negative prompt for the torch and shield. I figured he didn't need all that for killing some bats, right? This is Link. And also updated my positive prompt to basically also reflect this as well too. No torch or shield in a dungeon scene, character jumping and swinging as a sword, because I was kind of tired too of having him in the same pose as that reference image 1 that was also in the dungeon that we could see there. So now we got a little bit something more exciting. So I'm going to fast forward for the next few scenes, and then we'll kind of recap on what this entire storyboard looks like. All right, let's go over this storyboard. So as you remember, we have Link chatting it up with Princess Zelda outside of Hyrule Castle. Then he gets all determined and hops onto his horse with that determined expression that we were using with the ControlNet. Very awesome there. Then he gets confused on whether he should use a torch or a sword. Perhaps we invented a new weapon. And then he runs terrified of some bats in a dungeon. Then he discovers something. We can see this warm glow on his face. It's a treasure chest. And then, of course, he gets his heart. So that's storyboarding using a completely open source model, Qwen Image Edit, along with ComfyUI. Now, let's take a look at the next step here. So if we wanted to basically get this all animated, that's fairly straightforward, all things considered. I would never have thought I'd be saying that in 2025. But basically, we have our models of 1, 2.2 all loaded here, and then we would direct the camera what to do if we wanted kind of like static shots, having the character do something, so on and so forth. We would define that within this clip, and then we would bring our image as well into this node. So I had it connected here so the output could then just directly go into the animation. So that's worth using, or you could just bring in a load image node and then add that, and then run it through these K-samplers and then color match it. This is a custom node, but I found it's really helpful. And then basically have our video. That's, I think, all worth doing in a separate video. But I just kind of wanted to roughly outline on how to storyboard using completely open source models. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please drop a line in the comment section below. Again, this whole workflow is available to download for free on the Prompting Pixels website. You can either click the link in the description or just search Prompting Pixels and you should be able to find it pretty easily. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. You take care.